Hello, brilliant souls, and welcome to Rainbows in Real Life, the show dedicated to bringing positivity to the forefront, celebrating the power and promise of the human spirit, and supporting each other in challenging times. We believe when we join together, we all live better lives, and we're exploring ways we can do that in today's ever-changing world. I'm Pamela Aubrey, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Christopher Rush, the No Excuses Coach.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Hello. If you're watching us live or watching us on the replay, hello. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for being here, Christopher. And we are talking today with Erik Allen, and he's going to tell us his story of transformation coming from an incredibly rough background and turning his life into a legacy that he can be proud of. So welcome to the show, Erik.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here, guys. Thank you for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
Such a joy to have you. So I don't want to tell too much of your story because I know you have a lot to share with us, but I do want you to just kind of give us a little bit of background about you and what your life was like growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in what I thought was a typical household. You know, played Little League, went to Sunday school. My dad would take my best friend Dave and I and literally throw us some big dumpsters behind swords, like go treasure hunting, right? I mean, that was just what we did every day, right? You know, and when I was in 8th grade, or I guess when I was 11 years old, my parents got divorced, and they both got together with someone very quickly. And my mom got together with a guy who was very physically abusive, alcoholic right away. Never filed a police report. Always, would call the cops because I remember like being outside in the back window, looking into the house, and you'd be hitting her with a cordless phone when those were around, and it made me so frustrated that my mom would never press charges. And then what she do, like you'd think she'd break up, but then she got pregnant, and then they said, hey, we're going to move to small town Montana, Stevensville, Montana, population 1,200 people. Got this house on 5 acres, beautiful. The problem was the house had 3 bedrooms. It was one for them, one for my brother, who was like 2 months old at the time, and then my sister. And they said, Erik, you could live in the garage. And I literally left, I got half of the garage. So there's a plastic tarp at the end of my bed that separated to the truck. And I had a fireplace on my half, but it was kind of interesting, during the Montana winters when it gets into negative degrees.
So cold.
So yeah, it was pretty freezing.
Wow.
And I was about 13 years old. They came home arguing one night. Wasn't anything different than I had witnessed before. But I remember brushing my teeth, and I was like, man, something in my heart, I felt like it was, God saying, hey, you got to turn around. So as I turned around, the way the house was set up was behind me was the kitchen to the pantry to the garage where I stayed. And in that pantry area, he was on top of my mom, just boom, 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 one shot after the other. I'm like, I got to get this guy off. So I walked up behind him, and I grabbed a cast iron pan, the big heavy duty ones, and I got a pretty good swing. So I swung as hard as I could, and I split the back of his head open. And he turned around, and he was like, what? And as he said that, I took another swing and split his forehead open. And he was so drunk, it didn't knock him out, but I swung so hard that last time I had actually fallen over. And I remember him standing up over top of me, yelling, and my mom pops up, lands like 6 punches in a row, blood splats the wall. I got kicked out of the house after that. So I had 3 months left of my freshman year of high school and just bounced around from friends' houses. And that led me on a path of 10 years of destruction.
Wow. Incredible.
Dude, I thought my story was something. Shit.
Just incredible. And so what did that look like, going from house to house? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I remember like just living on couches, living on friends' floors and stuff like that. And we would like walk to school. And then after my freshman year, I moved back to Washington and lived with my dad for my sophomore through senior year. He rented a house for him and I. He'd put $20 in a cup, Hunger Man meals in the freezer, and cereal and milk in the house. Then he'd go stay with his girlfriend. So I literally had like no adult supervision. I didn't have any accountability to say, hey, don't do drugs. I knew not to do drugs, but what I did was I went and hung around with some buddies, and we started smoking pot, and then it was like taking acid, then mushrooms, and then, hey, let's go buy a bottle of Robitussin DM because it's only $2.50 versus a $5 hit of acid. So we would drink that. And when I was 18 years old, a senior in high school, I got arrested for having a bong, which is now legal in the state of Washington, but I had to go to jail. And black and white chain gang outfit on, bright orange slippers, had to spend the night in jail while I was still a senior in high school. And yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Wow. Did they do that to teach you a lesson, to put you in the stars and stripes? And I mean, well, not stars and stripes behind you, but to put you in that? Is that was like teach you a high schooler a lesson?
I think so. I mean, I'd never been in a courtroom ever before. So I remember having to go to court, and the judge's first question to me when I'm in there, like I'm all dressed up fancy, just trying to impress him, right? I'm sweating like crazy. And he goes, why don't you give me a reason why I shouldn't throw you in jail for 90 days? And I was like, just kind of froze. And he goes, I'll give you a reason. Your mother loves you. And I was thinking, well, I don't know about that, but like, like it was just one of those weird questions, And then what was interesting was he goes, hey, I want you to come to jail on Saturday night and I want you to check in at 2:00, and then you have to spend 24 hours in jail. And I'm like, is there any way I can come to jail on Friday? He's like, what? I go, well, there's prom on Saturday night, and I, don't want to mess up my wife or my girlfriend's dress and her fun night. And he's like, well, you probably should have thought about that before you smoked a joint in my county. And I was like, oh crap. But then he changed his mind. I was able to go to jail on Friday, got out the day of prom, went home, changed, and went to the dance.
Ooh.
Well, that's a good ending to a not so good story, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of like the story of your life. I mean, from that point, was it really a wake up call? I mean, from that point, did you think maybe I need to make some changes, or was it just like, you're a kid out there trying to survive?
Yeah, it was still survival mode. I got kicked out 2 weeks after I graduated high school. I woke up to a Post-it note on my bathroom in my dad's house that said, you have 48 hours to get out. And so between the age of 18 and 21, I moved 21 times, living on couches of second cousins of friends and things like that. And I moved to Seattle with $100 in my pocket, surviving off of credit cards. And so by the time I'm 21, I'm $28,000 in debt and had to file bankruptcy. And so, completely just lost. I was talking to Chris earlier. I was in the music business. Worked for Universal Records for a year. And the year prior to that, my buddy was a manager of the Gorge Amphitheater. And so I had this 2-year span where I went to probably 175 concerts and had open tab. And so, yes, I got arrested for having a bong, and I was on probation for a year where I couldn't smoke pot. But what that did was that increased my drinking abilities. And so I turned alcohol and started drinking massively during that time.
Sure.
And so it led me on this destructional path until I was 24 years old.
So I got the question for the elephant in the room. What's your relationship like now with your family?
So we moved to Idaho because that way nobody can just stop by my door and say, "Hey, nice to see you guys." Right. So we live here.
I understand.
Right. My most of my family lives in Tri-Cities, Washington, which is about 4 hours from where I live now. I grew up coming to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho every summer, just as a vacation. And I live here now. So it's fun to live here with my family and things like that. But most of my family still lives in that area, about 4 hours away. My mom lives in Texas, and I haven't heard or seen of her boyfriend since I was 21 years old.
Wow.
So
what about your younger brother? Is that your brother?
Yep. Yeah. I'm 13 years older than him. I think he's about 26 now, but I haven't talked to him probably in 3 or 4 years. And my sister lives in Texas by my mom as well, and she's got a few kids. And I'm not really close to my family. Me personally, my family is considered my wife and my kids. And we're starting this new generation of, hey, we're getting rid of the abuse, rejection, and all of that stuff that I had to deal with. My wife came from a broken home as well, and so we knew exactly what we didn't want to have in our marriage. And yeah, there were some struggles when we got married because we brought in some junk. We had to work through that, but
sure.
Now I've been married for 16 and a half years and still going strong, man.
Right on.
Awesome. Yeah, just awesome. Well, and so I think the burning question, and I'm sure other people probably have this question too, is how did you turn this all around? Right?
Yeah, totally. I was, working in the music business, got laid off at my 1-year anniversary right around the Napster days. And I was working at Starbucks at night. So I'd get off, I'd go to Safeway, the grocery store, I'd buy a 6-pack of beer, go to Hollywood Video and rent me a movie, and pass out drinking, watching a movie in my ghetto apartment. And one night while I was working at Starbucks, this girl walked in, very pretty girl, and said, "Hey, we've got this cool college age event down at this church. Would you be interested in going?" Me being depressed, not having friends, she's good looking. Hey, absolutely, I'll go. Right.
Yes.
So I'm like, yes. So I go down there, and there was all these guys that I knew from like the other side of the state. Like it was this weird connection, like the seed was being planted. I'm like, man, I haven't seen you since high school, and things like that. And about a month later, it's Easter 2004. I was managing a band. We went out and played a concert the night before Easter. I woke up Easter morning, my buddy's basement, surrounded probably 15 people or so. And I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I felt God in that moment say, "Man, you're done. Like, I need you to quit going down this path because you're going to be having this crazy life, and I need you to stop." And I felt God say, "You're done." And I quit cold turkey, drugs, drinking cigarettes at that moment, gave my life to Christ, called that girl up that stopped by the Starbucks, and I got her voicemail. I said, "Hey, thanks for inviting me to that church event. Happy Easter. Maybe I'll see you at the store again." And today she's my wife.
Damn.
Just love that.
Yeah.
Such a great story. I literally got chills while you were talking about that, because I think, that's a pretty unique experience. I don't know how many people actually have that experience where there's a moment, right, where it's like it's almost like you cross the veil of the matrix,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you see what's really real.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, I had to, mentally I had to get strong. Right. So I talked to my buddies and I was like, look, for me personally, I got to step away from this party scene for a bit, man. I need to get strong myself because I'm going down a path that I don't want to be going down. And they were like, dude, you do you, get strong, and we're here for you. And it's cool because I'm still friends with those guys today, but I took about a 6-month, 7-month break from really hanging out, going to concerts, anything. And what I did was I flipped the script and I started reading books massively. Like, how do I get rid of my past? And I like to speak on, like, my past doesn't define my future. And I started, like, even before I was podcasting, I was almost interviewing people that were living this life that I wanted to, the sober life, and having awesome marriages, and people that were involved in the church and things like that. And it just flipped my mindset around. And now I'm, like I said, we're trying to break those chains of addictions, abuse, and rejection.
So awesome.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. So what would you say for people watching and listening? What are the first 3 steps in breaking those chains of addiction?
One, acknowledge it, right? Like, don't sit there and let your past define you. Right? I mean, you can make a decision in any moment. If you want to make a change in your life, do it right now. Like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to get anyone's approval. Just do it. And then I say, surround yourself with people that are living the life that you want to live. Like, go and find, if you want to be a painter, go hang around painters. If you want to be an artist, go hang around artists, right? If you want to be a pastor, go hang around somebody at the church. Ed Milet, a guy that I love, virtual mentor guy of mine. Great. I've had the pleasure of having him on my podcast, and like, he talks about, if you're walking around at 85 degrees and you want to hang around guys that are walking 125, go be with them, because just being in their presence is going to lift you up. And so I say, go find people that are living that life that you want to. And then really, like I said, I think it's all about mental too. So deep dive into podcasting, read books, like, grow mentally in the life that you want to live, and get rid of that past. And one, forgive yourself. I think that's the hardest thing, right? For me, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I couldn't forgive myself of my past. And then once I did that, and I finally got that off my shoulders and released my story at 39 years old, and I'm 41 now. So I just released my story publicly 2 years ago. It was a huge weight off my shoulders. And it was just huge, for me, but also like for my wife and for other people that have messaged me saying, man, your story's crazy. That's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing that. Now I want to make a change in my life.
Yeah, just amazing. The thing that comes to me is that for some people, they might say, well, I've tried to change, I don't want to do the things I'm doing, but it's not that easy. What do you say to those people?
It's easy, but it's not. I get it, because I smoked cigarettes for 10 years. I wanted to stop smoking for a long time. And every time I said, I'm not going to smoke another cigarette, right? I'd go and smoke a cigarette, or I'd go drink. And then I'm like, if I'm drinking, I want to go smoke a cigarette, right? So if you want to make a change, you've got to get yourself out of the environment that is keeping you there. You've got to go find a different environment, another group of people that are not doing that's holding you back. Go find those guys that are living the life that you want to be living. And yeah, it's hard. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to go to networking groups in town. Like, that's what I did when I moved up here to Coeur d'Alene. I don't know anybody, but I started going to networking groups and just walking in and saying, man, I want to go get to know that entrepreneur. I want to go know what he's doing. I want to get involved in that. So you have to get uncomfortable if you want to make a change in your life.
Dude, that's so brilliant. I love it. Everything you're saying literally is stuff I've said or part of the story you've had. It's like crazy. Pam said, you're going to really like him. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure you will.
I know. I feel like I'm listening to Christopher talk right now. It's like, what's going on?
My beard is not as long. I keep mine short. Otherwise I'll twist it on the hell in that. But so you mentioned breaking the cycles with your family now. So you have kids now?
I do. Yeah. My kids are 11 and 8. And man, they're just a fun age. My son plays baseball. My daughter loves rocks and gems and crystals and stuff like that. And so love to like kind of be the rock person and find him on the beach. And then I coached my son's baseball for the last 3 or 4 years. And so it's been fun to see him grow every year and love the sport that I grew up playing too.
That's beautiful. So what would you say are the biggest lessons you've learned from your kids? Because I have a 4.5-year-old son going on 15 right now. So I'm learning a lesson at 52. So I'm 52 with a 4.5-year-old. It's crazy. I started a little bit late. Okay. But what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from your kids? Man,
patience is big. I always wanted like things now. I want things done like right away, and I want it perfectly and things like that. And just having kids is like, Okay. I got to be more
None of
patient.
that.
Right? I got to slow down a lot, right? So I had to learn how to manage my time so I can focus on myself and still develop even like mentally and personal development on a daily basis. So I get up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week to work on that stuff, and then have a full-time job from 8 to 5. And at 5 o'clock, I shut everything down, and it's family time. So I had to find the patience, but also manage my time better so I could spend better time with them.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. Yeah. I do want to acknowledge some of the audience that's here. Scott Rickard, great to have you with us. Thanks for hopping on.
Cindy's in the house.
Cindy's in the house. Hey guys. Caught live. Awesome. Great to have you with us. So glad you could hop on. And Mark Gassert, thank you for sharing out.
Hi, it is I, Mark Gassert.
So glad to have you with us. So your story is, I feel like, whenever I have an opportunity to share a story like this, it's really an opportunity for people to understand the power of the human spirit, but also that there's something bigger than us. To me, it really speaks to the fact that we're not here in this experience alone, even though sometimes, and I think a lot of people felt this over the last year, sometimes it feels like we really are alone. Yeah. And so talk to me a little bit about what that was like for you, at what point and what was it like, kind of suddenly realizing, wait a minute, there's something more here than what I've experienced in the past.
Yeah. I think after I woke up in my buddy's basement and I started reading books about, on how to draw closer to God. And like I said, started interviewing people that were pastors and living lives that had great marriages. They were all doing something to impact others, whether that was giving back money or spending time or volunteering time. When my wife and I first got married, we did 2 trips to Mexico and we went and built houses for people who needed them. Awesome. And that was so life-changing for us. I'd never done anything like that before. And, me being this manly guy, I don't know how to do tools. I didn't grow up around tools. My wife did. She grew up in a shop. My dad always said, just pay people to do stuff. So I don't know. She's the tool person in the house, but it was cool to go on these trips, and I'd be like the manly guy down there, like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then it's just booger crying when they're giving these key ceremonies to this family that went from dirt floors to now they've got a house and a lock and a light, and they have some beds and stuff. And so I just realized that, like, I have to impact other people. And that's really my mission, is to make people smile. I literally have a daily goal of every day, if I can make one person smile, then that's a win for me in the day. I wake up, if I open my eyes, there's win number 1, and then make my bed, 2 wins in 15 seconds. And then the next goal is to make somebody smile throughout the day. And so those are the big goals. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. So in your journey, one of the big things that I've been focusing on as well in my journey in going through a painful past is the subject of forgiveness and empathy. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Given what you've been through and given now what you teach, what are your thoughts on forgiveness and empathy, and how people that are listening to this or watching this right now who might be going through something? Because, as people hang on to so much of their past, expecting, hoping, wishing, and praying that's going to change somehow. Yep. Talk to us about that component of your journey.
I think forgiving myself was the hardest thing that I had to do. I forever, like I was ashamed of my past. I, hurt people. I didn't treat women correct, in a gentleman way when I was in high school and things like that. And so for me, I was like, when I finally decided to make that change, I was like, man, this is not something that I like. It was tough for me to just forgive myself of all of that, like drinking, partying, not being wise with my money, things like that. And so for me, that was a big thing. But then I think also forgiving other people. Like, yeah, I forgive my parents and my mom and my dad for what they did, but I don't have to forget about it. And I think people kind of try to go, well, if I forgive them, then I have to be nice to them. Well, no, you don't. You just have to forgive them, and then you can kind of live your life. But for you, it's huge. If you can forgive them, that's a big weight off your shoulder even then, right? So I don't have to be close to my family, but I forgive them, but I don't have to forget what I was put through, And so I think people that are going through that, if they can go, yeah, man, that person treated me really bad, or like I had a really bad experience there. I would say if you can, even if you're not a Christian, just forgive them for what they did in your heart. And then that's a weight off your shoulder, and then just move on. Like, you don't have to be close to them if you forgive them.
True. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. And sometimes we really shouldn't be close to those people. Sometimes those aren't healthy people for us to be around anyway.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I have this thing on my wall I have a vision wall in my office that I repeat all this stuff every day. And so one of the things that I have on there is be the reason someone feels welcomed, loved, heard, seen, and supported today. And that's really a big goal of mine to every day, to just like have that empathy for someone, man, whatever they're going through. It's not my job to judge anybody for political or sexual orientation, whatever it is. It's not my job to judge them. My job is just to love them where they're at.
So powerful. And, I mean, I think that we're at a point in time where, we're evolving. Humanity's evolving. And if we don't get on that train, we're not going to make it very far. Right. And so, and I know Christopher and I have talked about this a lot on this show, just, seeing what society can be, what we can become, and seeing sort of, and I think this last year really showed us that, it really kind of showed us, wait a minute, there's more to us, there's more to us individually, but also as a collective. And so talk to us about, how did you, like, when you had to go through the, like, really digging deep and kind of dealing with the hardest pieces of your story, how did you go about that?
I mean, it was tough. I already, it took me a while to go, man, the life that I lived was crazy. And now I've got to figure out how do I deal with that? And I did go to counseling. When I was first married, I was like, babe, I got some stuff that I got to get off my chest and I got to get this out. And like, she knew my story, but it was like, I need to talk to a counselor to kind of figure out how that was. And I think I always kind of looked at counseling like, oh, that's just a sissy thing to do. Like, we shouldn't do that. But then I'm like, no, I really need to go talk to a counselor. I want to get this stuff off my chest. And it was like the questions they asked and just talking to a counselor was like huge, because I mean, I remember sitting in his office, like bawling my eyes out in my early 20s going, man, I've carried this weight on for so long that I just need to let this out. And I don't go to counseling now, but I would highly recommend it. If people go through a trauma of anything, like, they should go and find someone that they can speak with, and just a counselor. And I think that's what I had to do to get through that, is I had to kind of sit down and talk it out. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's so important, whether it's a coach, it's a counselor, someone that you really trust, maybe it's a mentor in your life,
totally.
Or our pastor, I mean, a lot of pastors will do counseling as well. Just finding someone that, is really trustworthy, that you can share your story with at a minimum, and just say, what kind of wisdom can you give me? What kind of feedback can you share? I think that's really key.
Mm-hmm. It is. Go ahead, Pam.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you for sharing that, because I find that forgiveness and empathy, especially like you said, that forgiveness for ourselves, so many people are carrying around that weight of, oh, I did this and I did this and I did this. I always try to offer the perspective of the fact of, if you look at life as happening for you and not to you, and if you look back on all the different experiences that you've been through and you've grown through, might you look at those as a positive experience now in retrospect, right? So I get them to think, okay, if the past experiences that were challenging and quote unquote negative were actually positive for them, then to frame their perspective moving forward of things that are going to be challenging are actually positive ways for growth. And thinking about that and thinking about teaching people how to reframe their perspectives, what are some of the most important lessons that you're teaching your kids? I can imagine, based on what you said right now, and I just want to compliment you again for waking up and making that an intention in the morning to go out there and make people smile. I'm the same way. I say hi to people. I look like a badass. I wear camo shorts. I mean, I get tattoos, and people are like, oh my God, what the fuck? And I'm like, hey, good morning. Hey, good morning. So you're like, oh, hey. So I can see you being that way too. But I would love to have your insights on that.
My wife and I, we're on the same page. When we're out in town and we're at a store or a restaurant, people have name tags for a reason. Like, call them by their names. Yeah. Like, we love saying, hey, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Joe. Whoever's serving us at our table, whoever greets us at the door, whether they're having a bad day or not, I'm still going to call them by their name. And my kids know the same thing. And also, one thing that we have shared in our family is we just have so much appreciation for armed services and first responders, that if we're out in town and we see a police officer or firefighter or EMT or anybody in a uniform, my wife and I will go walk up to them with our kids and say, hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for, taking your life and put it on the line for us. And now my kids, we're out in town like, Dad, there's a soldier. Or Dad, there's a police officer. Let's go say hi, right? So they know that, like, we just so appreciate them. And so our kids are kind of like, they're growing up and like saying, hey man, we appreciate what they're doing. Yeah, there's going to be a bad apple everywhere you go, no matter what the profession is. But if we see a police officer or EMT or anyone in uniform, my kids are the first ones that are going, Dad, let's go say hi and thank you to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, and just the power, of you giving them an environment just completely the opposite of what you knew is so miraculous. I mean, it's really just, and to think of all the generations, to come that will be changed because of the decisions you made is really amazing. So how do you encourage someone who maybe is going through a hard time? Maybe, they've been through a lot. They want to make some of those changes, but don't really know where to start.
Yeah, I think number one, I think you have to make that change mentally. You have to decide to do it. You have to decide that, you know what, I'm not going to let this affect me anymore. And once you decide, then you got to take action. And that action is go find somebody that's living that life. Go find somebody that you trust, that you can talk with, and go surround yourself with great people. Because I think if you can get out of that environment physically, it also can get you out of that environment mentally, and that'll help you get on the right path to getting through whatever it is that you're getting through. And for me, that's what I had to do, is I had to go find people that were living that life that I want, and I came across Ed Milet in 2018, and I was like hooked. I was like, man, this guy
me too.
blowing my mind, and he's actually what inspired my other podcast. But
awesome.
I didn't meet him in person, but I got to have a call with him for 30 minutes, and it blew my mind. And so ever since I came across him and he was talking about, hey, go surround yourself with people that are lifting you up. That's what I did. I purposely put myself in situations where I'd be uncomfortable meeting new people. And now I've become, had some great relationships form from me taking that first step.
Beautiful.
That's such a great point, because I think, that builds muscle, right? When we have to step out of our comfort zone and do things that we think maybe we can't do, then it shows us that we actually can do it, right? Yes. And it's uncomfortable, it's not necessarily always fun, but then on the other side of it, it's kind of like, wait a minute, we have this realization about ourselves, and it empowers us and takes us to that next level. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mark says, thank you, Erik, for sharing. More importantly, taking action. Now is the time to keep moving forward and spreading positivity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so going back to what you were saying earlier, and I know you're doing this, talk to us more about some of the ways that you're doing that with your podcast and through some of the groups that you work with.
Yeah. So I started the Top Rated MA company as a brand in 2012. My wife came up with an awesome name, and it was just an apparel company. We didn't know what we were doing. We started this thing, and we made a lot of business mistakes. We bought so much inventory, couldn't sell it. And then in 2015, I actually put an ad on Craigslist and said, who wants to buy this company? And this guy called me up, and he's like, going to offer me like $3,000. And in that call, I decided not to, went back, restructured mentally, and said, okay, I need to restructure this. So 2017, we launched the Top Rated MMA podcast. I just wanted to talk to MMA fighters and ask them why they got punched in the face. And that's why it started. That's how it started. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in a walk-in closet, bad lighting, bad microphone, didn't even look in the camera, and then now humbly 231 episodes in, we're humbly considered #1 MMA podcast out here in the Northwest. And so I highlight up and coming MMA fighters from around the globe. And my job is to really help them get known and noticed online. And like I said, in 2018, I came across Ed Milet, and he did this Instagram challenge in 2018 where he said, submit a 1-minute story to him and tell me what you're passionate about. What drives you? Why do you want to be successful? And submit that via stories. And I did that. And 2 months later, he announced me as the Ed Milet Max Out Challenge winner. And that's how I got the phone call with him. And it was supposed to be a 20-minute phone call, turned into 30. And it was a life-changing call for me. And really, he's what inspired the Erik Allen Show, which now I'm about 105 episodes into that. And that's where I'm talking with entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people. So I've been blessed to speak with Ed Milet, Brad Lee, Bedros Keuilian, Jim the Rookie Morris, Tim Story, Eric LeGrand, and Dan Caldwell, the founder of Tap Out. Man, been blessed to speak to some amazing people. And so I love to be able to highlight those guys, right? Help entrepreneurs get known and noticed online and share their stories. And hopefully it impacts another, podcaster out there. And my coach, a guy named Mike Young, he just launched a course that's called Foundations. He typically sells it for $1,000. Actually, for your listeners, we can offer it to you for free. Just erikallenmedia.com/foundations. If they go there and it's on mindset, it's product, it's marketing, and all that. It's a free course. So if you guys want to go take advantage of that, the link will be good. So
incredible.
erikallen.com/media.
erikallenmedia.com/foundations.
I'm dyslexic.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. And so for any of the, for any of the listeners that aren't watching right now, you can go there and check out that free Foundations course. And, hi, Susan. Just want to acknowledge a couple of people that hopped on here really quick too. Thanks for being here with us. I just think it's important for people to take away from this what you're really wanting people to hear, which is, whatever your story has been, whatever's happened in your life, you can make a change. you can do something different. You can create something new. And so for those who maybe are coming in a little bit later, weren't here earlier, just give us a quick recap, of what it was that happened in your life that just really, gave you that moment, was really that moment, that pivot point for you of, it's time to do something different and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think once I hit that level of a 10-year streak of really just doing drugs and being depressed and living this life of not impacting anybody, I was being selfish. I was just out drinking and doing drugs and wasn't trying to help anybody. I was just doing whatever I could to get by. And I think once I decided, like, okay, I need to flip the switch. I need to start impacting people. I need to start telling people hi and call them by their names. And I need to start doing things for other people. That's when that switch flipped for me. And it was like, okay, now we're on a new mission. We're here to now make impact for people all over the world, whatever that is, through podcasting, through physical time, mental time, being mentor to people. And so, coming from that broken home and going to jail and being bankrupt and now being 16 years sober, married to my best friend, who the girl is, she initiated that by asking me to go to a church event. And then a month later, I give my life to Christ. And here we are 16 years later. Funny story. We're actually both born at exactly 1:41 p.m. documented on our birth certificate. Same, different day, different year, but the exact same minute.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Giving me chills again.
Yeah.
I know, right?
It's not a world record. I tried to submit that to Guinness World Record. It's not a world record, apparently. I don't know.
I don't know how that's possible. Well, it's crazy that more than one person has had that happen, actually. That's almost as crazy as the fact that it's happened once, right?
Totally.
Well, you know what? I'm so inspired by you because, and this is true for Christopher too. I think that there's a lot of people who have been through a lot of adversity, and my heart goes out to them that they feel so stuck in the pain of their past. Yeah. And that's why it's so important. I mean, that's really our heart behind this show, is to share the message out to people that no matter what's happened in your life and no matter what's going on in your life right now, that there's always hope, that there's always someone out there that you can reach out to. There's resources, even if you think that there's just no one, if you live in the middle of nowhere and there's, get online, start looking, see what resources are out there, be proactive. And I think that's an important piece of this, is to acknowledge that, nobody necessarily, grabbed your hand and drug you to the church. Yeah. You at some point made a decision for yourself that you wanted to live a different life, that you wanted to go in a different direction. And you did what it took to make that happen. And now you're living in the fruits of that decision. So I just, for anyone who got on a little late, that's really what we're talking about here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, it's been a fun journey. And like you said, Chris, life happens for us, not to us, man. And I actually have that laser engraved on a piece of wood here in my office, man. And
get out of here. Seriously?
Awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. It's I heard Ed say that one time, and I engraved it on some wood. I'm a laser engraver, so I started doing that. And then I have this thing on my wall that also Ed said that constant and never ending improvement on my office. So every morning I see that, and man, it's every day we just need to be improving and getting better and better and impacting more people, man.
Nice. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
I know you want to round it out, but I have one more question.
Yes.
Yeah.
One more question. Because I think we think alike. You and I, Pam, have had these conversations too. When you go out in the world and you're spreading cheer and you're spreading all this harmony and stuff like that, which is the same thing I do. I personally am looking at everything that's gone on in the world in the last 19 months or whatever it is you want to count as an opportunity for us to reset ourselves, to look within ourselves, to be the change that we want to see. And of course, we have a lot of situations going out in the world. What do you say to those people when you come in contact with them who have the hate and the anger and the fear and everything else that's going on, and you're out there trying to spread the positivity and spread the opportunity and spread the possibility of what it is that we can do together to change the world and being that leader for your kids? What do you say to those people who are hanging on to so much of that hostility?
Man, it is a crazy world right now. And I've turned off the news like 4 years ago. So I don't even know probably half the stuff that's happening, but I do hear bits and pieces of it through social media and things like that. But I think like if there's people out there that are just angry and they're like, well, he doesn't agree with me on this, or he has a Trump flag, or he's a Biden guy, right? Like, man, if people just took a chill pill for a minute and said, man, I'm just going to love you where you're at, wherever you're at. Like if you're a Joe Biden guy, if you're a Trump guy, whatever, like, man, just love people where they're at and sit back and you're not helping anybody by being, angry or by complaining, man. Just live your life and love on other people, man. The world would be 100% better if we just could all do that.
Thank you. I echo that. Yes. Big time.
Yeah. So powerful. And I think, along with that, just to know that anger is eating you alive too. Right.
Totally.
And it's hurting you more than it's hurting others in all reality. And so the sooner that you can let go of it, the better for your own sake. Yeah. Well, wow. Such a joy to have you on with us. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom and story with us. It's really been a blessing.
Oh, such an honor. Thank you again for having me on. This was a great conversation. Both of you guys are just world changers, man. Keep changing the world.
Will do. You too, man. We'll
Yes.
we'll definitely have more conversations.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And to the audience, thank you again, as always, for being here and supporting us, for all of your love, and for sharing this out with others as well, so they too might be able to benefit from this story tonight. So lots of love going out to all of you, and we will see you again soon.
Go on a kick-ass day.
Good night, everyone.